Hello students. In this video we're going to look at what we call compound shapes, which is a shape that is a combination of two or more simpler shapes. But before we do that, let's have a look at rounding, because one place where students can lose some points, for example, on an exam question, is incorrectly rounding when you're dealing with these more complicated shapes. Okay, here's the question. Evaluate, excuse me, evaluate, in other words, find the answer when you multiply those three numbers together and round the answer to one decimal place. Okay, I'm going to basically show you a couple ways that you might think about doing this, and I want you to tell me which one you think is better. Okay, so what Gabby does, she just types in the three numbers exactly as they're given, gets that really long answer, and then rounds at the end 18.9. The number after a 9 is a 3, so that stays as 18.9. So that's Gabby's answer. Now another student named Tom says, oh, like I might just round them off first and then multiply. So 2.345 becomes 2.3, 1.541 becomes 1.5, and 5.24 becomes 5.2. So he just goes ahead and rounds off multiplies the rounded off numbers. And he gets 18.078, and he rounds that correctly to 18.1. But have a look at the two answers. Gabby kept all of her decimal places and got that answer. Tom rounded off first and then multiplied and got that answer. And Gabby's, hopefully you can see, is correct, and Tom's is incorrect. So the lesson from all of this is, maybe not too surprising now, round only when you have to. So you didn't have to round until the last step, so do it in the last step. Okay, let's go ahead. We'll be applying this as we go, and you'll get some better ideas about when it is appropriate to round before the final step. Okay, let's have a look at a couple of questions. Okay, we've got two compound shapes here. So I'm going to do the one on the left, and I'm going to get you to do the one on the right. And I'll show you my setting out for questions like this. Okay, so looking at this, hopefully it's not too hard to see that this consists of two shapes. And I usually like to number them and actually put a circle around the number. So I call that one Area 1. And then each of these is a half circle. But if you put them together, most students can see that that makes a whole circle. And that's Area 2. And hopefully, again, you can see that the total area is just Area 1 plus Area 2. So here's my setting out for questions like this. I write Area 1. I don't put the little circle around the one there. Well, that's just a rectangle, so 3 lines of setting out. Length times width, 15 times 8. Well, 15 times 4 is 60, so 15 times 8 is double 60, which is 120 centimeters squared. Okay, now I work out Area 2. And being a circle, again, I'll use the formula that's on the formula sheet that my students will have, which is pi r squared. And again, we use the pi button on the calculator, not 3.14 times. Now we've got to be a little bit careful here. This is one of the reasons I like to write the word radius, to just remind students that you don't just plug that number in necessarily. You've got to think a bit. The diameter of the circle is 8, therefore the radius is 4. And I'm going to need a calculator for that. So let me go get my calculator. Pi times 4 squared. Put it back where it came from. Clear. Shift and pi times 4 squared. This time I hit the 4 first and the squared button second. Maybe that's the easier way to do it. And equals. Okay, now I'm not going to write down all of those decimals. What am I supposed to round to? That's important. Okay, only to one decimal place. My suggestion, you have to keep more than one. My suggestion is keep at least 2, and just to be safe, I would keep about 4. And I've just lost what those numbers were because I didn't memorize them. 0.26265, if I round that off correctly. 0.265. 2.655. Okay, so in general, if you need to round to 1 decimal place, keep at least 2 decimal places, and why not keep a few extras just to be sure? So I'm not going to keep them all. In fact, if the actual value goes on forever, because pi goes on forever, so you can't write down all the decimal places, so you need to do something sensible. 4 decimal places is normally pretty safe. Okay, finally, area is just the sum of area 1 plus area 2. Need a bit more space here, so I'll click on my little down arrow. And that's going to be 120. Don't write the units. Oh, I should have put the units in here. But when I've got a formula, you don't write the units in the formula. Just write the numbers. 50.2655. And I can add those in my head. 120 plus 50 is 170.2655 centimeters squared. But of course, I now need to round it to 1 decimal place. So that's going to be approximately 170 point. Well, looking at the 2 is where I'm going to round. There's a 6 behind it, therefore the 2 becomes a 3, and the units are centimeters squared. And normally, in fact, I don't write approximately equal to, even though that's more correct. We can just say that that's the area rounded to 1 decimal place. Okie doke, I'd like you to have a go, please. Let me just go ahead and scroll up. I'd like you to have a go, please, at the next question. Okay, welcome back, students. Let's go ahead and do this one. Now, this one's slightly different to the previous one. What we have here is a triangle, but with part of a circle cut out. So first thing we're going to do, area 1 is going to be the whole triangle. Whoops, just a 1. Area 1 is going to be the whole triangle. Area 2 is going to be the area of the sector, and the shaded area is going to be area 1 subtract area 2 in this case. Okay, let's go ahead and do the calculations. So here's the way I like to write area of a triangle, by the way. I'll use base times height because that's what the textbook uses. Well, in fact, I'll even do it, I'll do it exactly as the textbook does it. In the past, I used to not do this, but with calculators these days with fraction buttons, the fractions aren't a problem. So base times height divide 2, just as is written in our formula sheet, and we can then use the calculator to work out the answer. Okay, well, the base is 10 plus 8, which is 18. The height is 25, and divide 2. So 18 times 25 divide 2. Let's use the calculator for that. Just drag it off to the other side. And I'm going to use my fraction button. 18 times 25, down arrow, divide 2 equals, and I get 225 square centimeters. So let's write that one down. 225 centimeters squared. Okay, let's go ahead and do area 2. And that's the sector of a circle. So you write down the formula, theta over 360 times the area of a circle, which is pi r squared. Let's see if we can squeeze all this into the same space as the other one. So I'll write a bit smaller. Substituting, the angle is 54 degrees. So you put 54 over 360 multiplied by pi, multiplied by the radius of 10, all squared. And I'm going to have to scroll a bit. Okay, let's go ahead and work that out on our calculator. So I use my fraction button, 54 over 360 multiplied by pi multiplied by 10 squared. Just double check it. Yep, all looks good. And equals. Okay, I need to round this to, again, I'm going to keep about 4 decimal places, 47.1239. 47.1239. Okay, I'm going to have to scroll down, which is going to be, oh, it's not too bad. It's going to say, I thought I might jump a long way. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and find the total area. Excuse me. In this case, it's the area of the triangle, which is area 1, minus the area of the sector, which is area 2, and I get 225 subtract 47.1239. Let's do that calculation. We certainly use our calculator a lot in measurement questions. 225 subtract 47.1239 equals, and we want the final answer to 1 decimal place, 177 point. Well, we've got an 8 there. Looking at the next decimal, it's bigger than 5, so that 8 becomes a 9. So 177.9. And units, again, are centimeters squared. So summarizing, when we have compound shapes, what you have to do is find the area. Well, first figure out what simple shapes go together to make up the compound shape. And sometimes that can be a little bit tricky. So in this case, it was a triangle minus a sector. And once you've got that, you work out the area of each of the simple shapes. Again, we're talking 3 lines of setting out for each. Formula, substitute, answer. And then the last step is then going ahead and adding or subtracting as necessary to work out the area that you're interested in. Okay, we have one more video on this review, which is looking at some slightly more complicated compound shapes, and we'll do that in the next video.